Greetings. This is Surviving and Winning. And, well, yesterday, I meant to do it yesterday. Yesterday was Cancer Day. But today I just wanted to talk about dementia caregivers and what happens to us, the caregivers, when um, you're taking care of your parent. And sometimes just your loved one. It could be your brother or sister. Sometimes people get dementia early. It depends on how their brain is affected. One thing that I must say that is never mentioned that we must always do, and this is something that I really feel really strongly about, is that you never give anybody a pass. You never say that somebody is always right and defend them in their wrong. You never, ever do that. Because just because a person is a parent does not mean they're always right. We have found people who are parents who torture their children, so we should never assume that when a parent is complaining about a child that that parent is right. We should never assume that we know anybody. We should never assume that because a person is rich and another person is poor, that the rich person is right. We should never assume that if a person is a man and the other person is a woman, that the man is right, or that because she's a woman, that the woman is right. We should never assume anything. What you should do is if someone speaks about someone else who is um, not present, that you end the conversation and request that the other person be present so that you have a trial. And I'm saying this, it sounds like I'm not talking about the actual topic of dementia caregivers, but I am. Dementia patients may accuse their caregivers or the people around them of doing different things, but the reality is that when a person has dementia, depending on what part of the brain, but what I have found in my own life and what I have found that's been going on is that a lot of times the dementia patient cannot distinguish between what's going on in their head and what's going on in real life. They don't know the difference. And this applies to me because most of my life I got accused of different things, and my mother was an older mother. And she didn't I'm the oldest, but she didn't start having children till she was like 35. When she got into that age where I was an adult and she had her own problems on top of that, she began to accuse me of things that I wasn't doing. And it really caused a discourse or a gap. And I charged her with that because I didn't know she had it. She was abusive and she grew up in an abusive home. And so that's why I channel it back to how we treat children. Forget about you. You're gonna die. I don't care what happens. At some point, you will no longer be the center of attention, and nobody's gonna give a freak about you except what you have done for them. So you can stop being selfish right now. That's my rant. And so you see a lot of adults who are supposed to be elders and they're just old people with a past. And these young people come out of heaven and God has a plan for them. And you kick the shit out of it. And I'm not talking about my mother. I might be talking about my grandmother, my great grandmother, my great great grandmother. Well, I mean, what I'm really talking about is it should stop here. Because what ends up happening is what I've learned about dementia is their brain becomes maladaptive. In other words, they get so adapted to people catering to something that doesn't really exist that their brain adjusts to something that doesn't really exist. And eventually, when it starts to deteriorate, nobody is adjusting to it. I remember reading something when I was in high school called The Loneliness of the Long Distance Runner. And it was a classic tale. But it was about this person that ran track. And it almost, if I was to bring it forth to today, it's about like a professional athlete where they can rape girls, they can mistreat women, they can talk down to everybody, they can do anything they want to do in life that other people in life have to adhere to. Laws that other people have to adhere to, they don't have to adhere to. And unless they go against the money, and then all of a sudden they get, they'll get caught up in something that normally they wouldn't get caught up in unless they harm the money, which goes into another layer of allowing people to get away with things that they shouldn't get away with. It doesn't help the person that got away with it, and it doesn't help the person that they attacked. And it goes the same way with parents and children. And it goes into, I'm not blaming my mother for what, how she turned out, but that type of behavior, she doesn't know anymore. She can't fix it. It happened. Somebody did it to her, so she did it to me, and somebody did it to my grandmother. Like, it just keeps going on. We cannot allow this to keep happening. When they look up what happens to people who have dementia, it said this, and it's not all my mom either. Because there are some people can have more than one layer of dementia. She has Alzheimer's and vascular dementia. The vascular dementia she can't control at all. But the stress that comes from people doing the wrong thing and getting away with it transfers later in life. Treat your children well. I'm not even talking about me. I'm talking about how my grandmother was treated, how my great grandmother was treated, and by the time I get to my great great grandmother, I'm all the way in slavery. Be careful how you treat people. And I don't care how weak that person is, hold them accountable. I don't believe that children should be allowed to get away with everything, but I don't believe that adults should be allowed to get away with everything. And I believe when I talk about dementia caregivers, I'm one, and I'm also a cancer patient. I have a sister with autism. So, and my mother, oh my God, she is brilliant. But it didn't stop her from her childhood past catching up to her. And instead of dealing with it, she took it out on the people that loved her long enough that it altered the chemistry in her brain. And now she's stuck in it. And there's a portion of her that is a really great person, but you can't get to that. And so when you're a caregiver, you have to think about all the stuff they did to you and all the stuff they let happen to you. And now they can't do anything about it. And the fact that they're suffering so much that unless you are want to, unless you're a really bad spirited person, you don't want that to happen to them, and you don't want it to happen to you, and you want to break the cycle. So they always talk about the cycle of abuse and breaking it. Not all people with dementia are mean or bad or anything like that, but there is a maladaptive tendency of people. This is clinical of the things that people did that they did over a length of time, and they did not. It's not a sweet old lady that will actually hit you with her cane. She has always wanted to hit you, and finally, when she gets old, she'll hit you, and nobody will do anything about it. And then you'll have this wise old lady that looks as frail as you, like her bones could crack at any time, that will give you the most knowledge that you'll ever have. And she could be almost in her in her hundreds. And I happen to have had, when I was younger, people in my family who lived in their hundreds, and you could ask them anything. They didn't have dementia at all. I didn't. I think I'm talking off the cuff. I really had other things in my head, but I really thought about that because my grandmother lived to be 96. Wait a minute, 2000. She lived to be 96, and she was 1 month away from 97. I could ask her anything. And I was in my 20s. I could ask her anything, and she gave me answers that have lasted me this long. And they were absolutely correct. She didn't have dementia at all. But she also lived by principles. And I guess my biggest thing when I talk about surviving and winning is not about the person that's dying. It's the people that are living. And the people that'll come behind me, it is very, 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 very hard to take care of a person with dementia, but I'll do my best. I am a cancer patient. I don't know how much I can do. It is very hard to watch my mother die slowly. You can watch, like, if you would, I guess an example would be that you would see someone whose all their organs have failed and they're on life support, and they'll say they're brain dead, but their organs are still working. That's what it's like with a dementia patient. Their brain starts working slowly, and their organs are on life support. We've gotten so far in medicine, but we haven't really held on to the brain. I think that's for a reason, especially if you are being brainwashed or abused or mistreated or maladjusting. And so part of dementia is the maladjustment to being the most important person on earth. If you ever feel like that you are the most important person on earth, be afraid that you may have dementia later. Um, a person that's close to God is the first step is humility. Um, Anyone who's not humble is not learning, and whenever you stop being humble, you will stop learning. So a lot of your what you may think to be a person that is not arrogant or lacks confidence, it's not that they lack confidence, they're humble. And most of the humble people are exactly brilliant. You can see that when you look at people in high school and they surpass you later on in life. That's why. One of the thing, and another thing that I wanted to say is, you know, we're too afraid of death. And I can say as a cancer patient, that could be a fear. It's a legitimate fear. You should want to, especially if you have children, like children people take care of. Well, if you look at the way things are going right now, I would be scared of living, more afraid of living than dying. Go out and vote. It doesn't mean that the vote's going to count. It doesn't mean they're going to do anything, but when they see you at the polls, they're going to know that there may be an uprising outside of what they can control. So go ahead and vote. If you don't, they're going to look at it that you've conceded and you said that this is okay. This is not okay. And for the dementia caregivers, fight for your loved ones and also fight for yourself. Some things that some of the people who have it have been abusive all their lives, and some people who have it have not. In fact, there's some people who get it, it's because their brain is dying and you don't know why. And all of a sudden, they've been loving all of their lives, and all of a sudden, they're mean. You don't recognize them anymore. You don't realize that their brain has died before their body. That's why if a person is on life support and their brain is dead, the doctor says, do you want us to pull it? This person is not here anymore. The thing about dementia is part of them still is, it is a slow brain death. It's not about the person forgetting things. Forgetting things is a sign. Forgetting things says that part of their brain that used to remember doesn't remember it anymore. But then they may not remember you anymore. I lost my grandmother to this. I lost my godmother to this. What happens is their brain tells their body what to do. And so parts of their brain die. And then their ability to control their bowels, they'll start soiling themselves. Their ability to remember you will stop. Their ability, eventually, it is a deadly disease. Eventually, their brain will forget to tell their heart to beat. Their brain will forget to tell their legs to move. Their brain, uh, um, they can't help it. They can't help it. And no matter how you feel about your loved one or someone that you never met, it's gonna hurt to watch a person die slowly. And when it's your mom, it hurts. And when what hurts, not just for me, but it hurts my sister who's autistic. And it hurts my father who's been married 53 years to watch his wife dissolve away. And the person doesn't have to be perfect. Nobody is. But understand that there's a lot of things that go along with this. You don't want to have dementia. If you don't want to die slowly and think that everybody's coming after you when they're not, get closer to God and live in it. It doesn't matter how you grew up or what is happening around you. Get closer to God. He created everything that happens around you, and in fact, He can eliminate all of your problems. And if He feels like you have taught everybody as much as they are going to learn, He'll remove you from this earth, and you will fall into the bosom of His arms and never have to deal with this again. And that's how I deal with my cancer. And that's how I feel about my family. I want them to be okay while they're here on earth. And I'm hoping that I can stay and do that for more people, especially my sister. But I don't like to see suffering. Some people don't care, but I do. And I guess I should probably change the title, or maybe it sounds like I'm rambling, but this is how I really feel. I'm not angry, but I may raise my voice. I'm sad actually, but I'm raising my voice to keep from crying. And I'm just like, and raising the voice is an arrogant thing to do. And so I apologize if I did that, but sometimes people can't hear until I do. This is a shout out to the caregivers. Um, in some ways, I want them to understand um, how they may be processing things by by opening myself up to what I'm processing. But what I'm processing may not be the same thing. But I think anyone who will listen, shout out to the people who are suffering from dementia. Shout out to the caregivers. Shout out to those who are suffering from cancer. They're calling us the sandwich generation, and that means that um, the younger people are needing care while their parents are needing care. We are getting sick and we're dying faster than our parents. Do not let this election pass you by and allow anyone to take your health benefits away. Peace and blessings. I'm out.